Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being out here and being a part of this really great effort in iMapInvasives. So we're going to go over today how to do a presence record and a treatment record at the same time. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about the view here in the iMapInvasives program. So once you log in and you go into the map, this is what you're going to see at first. And each one of these big orange circles represents a huge collection of data. So what you will often want to do is filter the records to focus more specifically on what you're looking for. So you'll just click this Filter Records button, and there are a bunch of different things that you can filter the records by, but probably the most important one is species name. So we're just going to filter for water chestnut. You can type the common name or the scientific name. You can also add multiple species into this query if you want, but we're just going to focus on water chestnut for right now. All right. So now that the filter's on, you can see that we only have this little bunch of points here representing the water chestnut data. And if I were to zoom in a little bit more, then the orange circles would become green data points and polygons and lines. Yeah, so you can, now that you filtered, you can click on any one of these data points or these shapes, and then you can get the information for each one of them. All right, so now that we know how to filter for water chestnut, I also just want to point out a couple other things in this map. You can change your base maps from topographic view to satellite to streets, and then a couple other types of maps that are useful in different situations. In this Layers On and Off tab, you can add or remove confirmed data. So this is data that has gone through the iMapInvasives confirmers network, or if you want, you can open up unconfirmed data points, which if I zoom out, you'll see these kind of small pinkish purple data points. Those have not been confirmed yet. All right, so those are a few different things you can control on the map. And now that we have a little bit of a better idea about what the tools around this map are, let's go ahead and create a record. So I'm going to go over here to the Barney Road Golf Course. So let's say I was playing some golf, and I noticed that there was a bunch of water chestnut in this pond right here. And I wanted to report it to iMapInvasives because I knew it's a good service, good thing to contribute to. So what you will want to do is once you've gone home and you log into iMapInvasives, you can click this Create Record button. And if you just want to report a presence of an invasive species, then you would pick this top selection here. Or if you were going into record a treatment afterwards, you would click this. But I'm going to show you how to record both of them at the same time in this multi-record search area tool, or selection here. So the first thing you want to do is draw your searched area. This is basically where you looked for this invasive species. With the smaller bodies of water like this pond, you would pretty much surround the whole area, whereas in a larger lake like Sacandaga, you might only be able to look at a relatively small area. So I'm just going to close this. When you go to draw your searched area, I I definitely recommend switching from a topographic view to satellite imagery, because there's very often a significant difference between the two. So if you want more accurate polygons, I recommend using the satellite imagery. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw in my polygon. There's an option to like click and drag, and it creates like a ton of data points, but that's not it's not always the best strategy. So I usually recommend using, you know, a smaller number of data points, and still you can still create a fairly detailed polygon. So here's my searched area. You double click to finalize the polygon, and you can go back and edit it if you wish, but I'm going to say that that is good. And now that you have your searched area, you want to record where the invasive species was actually present. So if I only saw water chestnut in this like little narrow area of the pond, I would go out and select polygon and draw it in, which I'm going to do in a second. You can also just do point records or line records, or you can say entire searched area. So if water chestnut was throughout this whole area, you would click that. But again, I'm saying that I only saw water chestnut in this area, so I'm going to click polygon. I'm going to quickly draw in where it was, double click, and there we go. There's my presence record. Now you are going to detail the information that is in this record. So first you'll want to pick the species, which I guess for this group would normally be water chestnut, but because this is like a demonstration, I'm going to pick a fake species for testing. Make sure the observer and the date of the observation are correct. One really important thing we always emphasize, and I think it's been said a couple times, is try to get very nice, clear, close-up photos if you can, to show some of the defining characteristics of the species that you're reporting. So like you would probably want to get a shot of those nice triangular leaves for water chestnut, and then upload the picture here. There are a few other things you can fill in here, but the other really important thing is this distribution field, because this is where you say if the water chestnut here was only a trace, like a single plant clump, if it was sparse through this area, dense, or if the whole thing was a monoculture. Linearly scattered doesn't really apply to water chestnut growth. That's like if there's something growing along the length of a road or something. But I'm just going to say dense plants clumps for this example. And there are more options, of course, but we're just going to keep it relatively simple today. So we have our presence record fully detailed inside of our searched area. And now I'm going to show how to do a treatment record. So after you identify that an invasive species is present, you may want to go and like pull the water chestnut or something. So then you would go into IMAP and add a treatment. So you would have your target species, which again for this group would normally be water chestnut, but I'm just going to do a fake species because this is a demonstration. Hit next. Same thing, you can choose polygon, point, line, or entire searched area. I'm going to keep it as polygon just so because you're only going to be treating this area. Making sure that everything stays inside the searched area. All right. So there's our treatment polygon. Now, because treatments may go on for a period of time, you know, if you have a particularly large patch of water chestnut, it might take a while. So you might want to adjust the begin date and end date for this treatment. You can say if it's a follow-up treatment or it's the initial treatment. You can pick what the goal is for the treatment, whether you're trying to eradicate it completely or just suppress it. you can add a photo of the treated area. So this would be a photo after you've done the treatment. You can take a picture just so it's kind of like a before and after of the photo of the presence record and then the photo of the treated area. So you can kind of, you know, people who go into the IMAP records can see. And then one other field that it's optional, but we do recommend people fill in if they have the information. So for the first, the treatment record details comments field, try to record like the number of people that, or like volunteers that you have working on this treatment, and then like how many hours were spent to complete that treatment. So that's the first comment field is going to be your volunteer effort or person effort. And now we're going to pick what type of treatment it was. So if we were doing a water chestnut pull, that's going to be a physical treatment, whereas like chemical would be spraying herbicide. And then it'll ask you to be a little bit more specific about what type of physical treatment was conducted. Like a water chestnut pull is going to be a mechanical/manual treatment. And then if you scroll down again, mechanical treatment methods, you can finally pick pull if you scroll down. And also recommend picking out how you disposed of it. You threw it in the trash or composted it. And then you have your second comments field, and then this inside the treatment type details is again optional, but we recommend if you have the information, you're going to record something about the biomass that was removed. So hopefully after the project that I'm working on with Steve Pearson, this is going to be just like another way of recording biomass. But if you have the information, it's also good to record it here. So it would be biomass and then say 10 garbage bags removed, right? So that is your second comments field. All right, so now we have our fully detailed searched area, presence record, and treatment record. There's also options to detail if you were trying to look for a species and you didn't detect it. This is where you would fill that in, hit next, because it's not applicable in the situation. And then you get this nice summary box, so just make sure that everything lines up. You can edit anything that you need to at this point, but we're looking pretty good right now, so I'm going to hit complete, and the data is going to be added into the iMapInvasives database. So there it is, and then you can see the links and the numbers for the searched area record, the presence record, and the treatment record. So you can go ahead and open up any one of those to get more information. So there's our infested area. All right, so that is how to record a presence and treatment record in iMapInvasives. I'm going to turn it back over to Mitch and for some final thoughts and questions.
Thanks so much for that demo, Jacob. I did want to make one note. So as a recap, Jacob just went through how to record that pre-treatment survey and then the treatment survey. And another thing that we would also like people to do eventually is to record these post-treatment surveys. So really we're focusing on getting 1 and 2 into IMAP right now, but 3 is a long-term goal for us as well. So essentially this would be after the treatment, maybe in the fall or in the next year, recording what the distribution looks like at that point. So did the water chestnut all grow back in the next year? Were you able to get rid of all of it, or maybe you were only able to get through part of it and there's a huge part that still exists? So you would record a presence record for that current distribution, and we would, of course, want you to fill out the distribution so we can see if that is being changed over time. If you're lucky and water chestnut does not come back, you could then do a not detected record as your post-treatment survey. And there's an option to select reason for not detected, and so there, you can pick which reason is most applicable. It'll probably have to do with a treatment that you've conducted. And after several years, if there's repeated not detected records, we can actually set that location to presumed eliminated. And that's a field that we have to edit as admins of the database. And I did just see a comment, so I'll make sure to look at that and follow that up later. But if you do know of locations where water chestnut has been managed and has been surveyed since then and not found for several years, then we may be able to set that to presumed eliminated. And then to wrap up the main takeaways, we just want to make sure everyone leaves today knowing that there are lots of benefits of recording water chestnut polls as treatments in iMapInvasives. So you can record your efforts and showcase your progress, and you're also helping with the big picture. So it allows us to track water chestnut infestations themselves, as well as the management efforts across New York State, across time, across the state, and help us build this institutional knowledge. And so the steps to do that are to join IMAP and join an IMAP organization, and to record the infestation and fill out the distribution, and of course to record that treatment record and fill out you can fill out the biomass and the volunteer effort if you're interested. But the main thing is really the distribution in the presence record and the treatment polygon. And so thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to Stephen and Lauren and Jacob for your great presentations. And thank you all for hanging in there with us today and learning about how you can help with this statewide effort. So there's so much great work going on across the state, and we want to do a better job of capturing it and assessing how successful it is. So we encourage you to record your water chestnut polls this year.